All right, everybody. It is that time again. So, as of right now, we have created stacks and queues. Now, our stack and queue basically just took in some basic numbers, oop, like so, and all we ended up getting were just, there's a queue of them things, there's a stack of things, but putting numbers into a stack and queue isn't really all that useful. It's mostly just for, I guess you can say, teaching purposes, so you kind of get the idea using the most basic instrument we've got. So now we're going to upgrade this. We're going to move this up to the next level. So instead of just pushing in numbers like we were before, we're going to go ahead and go for objects. Now we've talked in class about how, go ahead and just erase all this. We could have a stack of boxes, things like that. So we're going to go ahead and create an actual box. I just happen to have one at the ready, actually. Boom. So I'm just going to go ahead and create this object up here. Now for me, I can just right-click, new, Java class, box. Poof. Now I have a box. Now the difference here is we have to decide what attributes it's going to have, what methods it's going to have. And I've already kind of pre-made this. We're just going to have something very simple, a string array of contents. So I could have a whole list of things in a box, basically. So instead of just having one item, it could be several. Think of like a package being sent to your house with like 4 or 5 things in it. And we have a constructor. And then we have a little method that displays the contents of that particular box. So we'll just get a list of everything that's in that box. Ta-da. So you can go ahead and, if you're watching this video, just copy this code into the original box. To save time, I'm going to go ahead and just copy this and paste, but this is what we're going to need to do. There we go, and I'll zoom in a little bit to make it a little easier to read. So we've got a string of contents, and of course we could make this box hold all sorts of things. It could be a box of other objects if we wanted to, get really intricate with it. So we have our attribute, which is an array. I have my constructor, which means I just give it an array of whatever. Uh, and these are just going to be words, but they could represent objects or anything like that if I wanted them to. And then I have a method that will, for each box, display the contents of that box. Now it's not going to do anything special, it's just going to, show the contents of that one box. And we can use this when we go to our stack to actually display the whole thing. So with this done, we can go ahead and start up our stack, but I'm going to have to make a couple of adjustments. And the first adjustment is instead of an integer array, it's going to have to be a box array. Now this is going to immediately break several things. Oh, and I use the capital box for mine. So you'll see several things redline, which is going to be pretty normal. So I just have to make some adjustments here. Now, you're not going to make every integer a box. And that's one of the common errors. Well, that's got to be a box. That's got to be a box. No. Only the content, the stuff that's going to actually go into the stack, is going to be a box. I still need an integer to keep track of how many boxes. And I also need to figure out what the top box is, and that's an integer location. So those will stay integers. I'll still make an int size because I need to know the size of this stack. Now I'm not making integer array though, I'm making a box array, so I'll make that adjustment. Now that sets us up here, but now we have to push a box onto the stack. Now it's going to be a box and not an integer. So there we go. I make the adjustment, box. Well, if the stack is full of boxes already, we don't put anything on there. If it isn't, then I just put the box on there. So that actually won't change anything other than just what I'm pushing on there. The pop, I was popping off an integer. Well, now I'm popping off a box. Now I was returning -1 in my previous example because we had integers and -1 tends to mean error. Since this is an object, I'm just going to return a null. And instead of int n, it's going to be box n. Now, notice how this says stop equals 0. I was basically using 0 as a representation of emptiness. But what can be more empty than null? So I'll just null it out, basically. So we've got our push, we've got our pop. And if I scroll on down, our display. Now, if I leave this as it is, this is going to give us an issue. When you try to print a box or an object, you don't get the contents of that object. You get, that funky little pointer value. So I'm going to leave that as it is just to show you. And I'm going to go back to my main and just make a quick stack. Stack s1 equals new stack. And we'll say 4. Doesn't really matter. Now, in order to put a box on this stack, I have to create a box. So before I could just say, s1.push and then, 5 or whatever. Well, since I'm not pushing integer, I'm pushing a box, I have to push a box onto here. So the two ways I can do that is I can create the box first. Box b1 equals new box. And in parentheses, I have to give it a string array. So let's see here. What's the best way to go about this? There's a couple of different ways to do this too. But I'll just say chicken, comma, pickles. Alright, well, let's see. I probably won't be able to do it that way. So let's just make a string array. I usually have to have a new array there, so string array, I was just checking to see if that would actually work. And apparently it doesn't, sadly. So I'm just going to cut this out, paste it up there. So I've made a simple array, and I'm going to pass it that array. And then I'm going to push the box. Boom. Now I could probably, in parentheses, say something like new string array. I wonder if I could probably do that. There's several variations of how I could probably do this, but new string, something along the lines of that. I could probably make a couple of things that would actually work. But honestly, breaking it up into parts might make it a little easier to understand than doing it all kind of in one line. But there is a couple of different ways you could just do it all right here. It's just this line would be rather long. So I made an array, put it on there. It's on the stack. Now if I were to try to say display, well, there's one item on my stack. I'm going to get boxed at 15 blah 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 blah, which is that memory location. So in order to fix that, we're going to have to go back to our stack. And I don't have to print anything per se here. I've already got something in box called display contents. Now where people will often go wrong, go back to my stack, is they'll put a little print statement here. And it's actually what did I call it up here? S. Oh wait, yes, dot display contents, I believe, right? Let's see, S is my box. Oh, it should be SI. There we go. So the common errors would just be to say S. And S is an array of boxes, so that doesn't actually have any of the methods on it. But I have to tell it a specific location for that box. So S0, S1, S2, those are the locations of those boxes. So we take a quick look, and the contents of the one box that I have is chicken and pickles. So let me just go up here and make another one. We'll push two things on here. And, well, I can just say string array 2 equals, I don't know, how about pizza? I'll just put one item in this box. And then, of course, we'll create a box and actually put it in there. Box b2 equals new box array 2. Padow. There we go. And then I just push that box. Push s1.push b2. Now I've got, let's see here, pizza in the first box, and it doesn't look perfect yet, but the second box is pickles. I probably could go over here and probably adjust that a little bit. Go to my stack. Let's see, how about do a little print statement, and we'll just say box number plus I, and then s.display contents. And I'm going to go ahead and make this a print instead of a print line. And that should make this a little bit more descriptive. Box number 1 contents, maybe add a little plus quotation mark there. Box 0 contents. So box 1 is on top, box 2, and 3, 4, 5, whatever gets stacked up top. There we go. Looks a lot better, I think. I could add another little space at the end to make it look a little bit nicer, maybe. There we go. Box 1, box 0. And it's just going to count backwards because that's how my loop is working. 3, 2, 1, 0, going back. So this is how we would convert a stack and a queue. Well, a stack specifically. I just go down and adjust it to work with the box. And there's only a couple of really major adjustments you have to make. Honestly, the display is where the biggest change happens. But now I can just have a whole stack of boxes. And the entire data structure will still work the same. So if I wanted to do this with another object, let's say I wanted to make a stack of pigs or something, well, that's not too big of a deal either. I just create a pig object, and there we go. That's now a pig. I just come down here and adjust all these boxes to pigs. And if there's some sort of display method of some sort, then I just go in here and adjust that as well. And typically that's going to be up here inside the object anyway. All right. Hopefully that kind of clears up for the stacks. In the next little video, we're going to talk about doing the same exact thing except with queues. And that shouldn't be too much longer. It's basically the same process.